Hey everybody, Roar of the Lions UK, Matt and Ant here. It is episode number 380, entitled Woof. I've already said who we are. Ant, how are you?
I'm in a bad mood. I'm in a really, really bad mood still, 24 hours later, and this day has just not made it any better. And I'm having to watch the Bears pummel the Philly Eagles at the minute just to rub that salt in even more. I am not in a good mood at all. My little therapy session thing after the game last night didn't help in the slightest. Yes, I'm not doing well.
That's fair. I did not watch the game. I only had to watch it at lunchtime, and of course, it's so much harder having not watched the game, knowing you've lost against your biggest rivals. Well, my biggest rivals. I know some people have the Bears, the Vikings as their biggest rivals, but I've always wanted to beat the Packers more than anyone. Knowing I have to watch that game, knowing we've lost, and I'm not watching it purely for like what went wrong, but just what happened, was tough today. So, anyway, I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving regardless, even if the Lions conspired to ruin it as much as possible. I hope that you had a good time with your family if you were with them. Picked off! The Bears are picked! Love it!
That's made
Fucking
me a
love
better
it.
mood.
Oh, sorry, we're all Eagles fans today because we can't catch the Eagles in the conference, but we can beat the Bears in the division. So come on, Eagles. Anyway, we're going to be watching that as we go through talking about this game. We're going to break down some news. We're going to break down the game, talk about what went wrong, and then we might kind of venture into what it means for the Lions in the rest of the season. Previously, when we've had losses, monumental losses, we've talked schematically about what could change and that sort of thing. Probably not going to do that today. We've done a lot of that recently. Instead, just the implications for what the Lions have to do to stay relevant in the NFL this season. Because frankly, the line to tread is getting thin, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Please do join our Discord channel. The link is coming up in the live chat in just a second. If you're listening on the audio pod, it will be there. So do hit the link. We'd love to see you in there. We've had quite a few new people recently, and that's been really great. So yeah, please do join us there. And College Football Podcast happened a couple of days ago. What did he talk about?
A lot of stuff. So it's the FCS playoff week. So Ryan filled in the bracket for that. A lot of new head coaches in the biz. We went through all the scenarios for the conferences, the FBS ones, as to what could happen in terms of championship games this week. There was a whole lot of stuff we went through. So it's the busy time of year now where there's just not enough time to talk about everything.
Is technically this week rivalry week?
Yeah, it's rivalry week. Egg
Right.
Bowl's already happened. We got Texas playing tonight, Arizona. All those rivalry games happening tonight. So, yeah, it's been funny already. Miss State fans breaking into Ole Miss's locker room and stealing their quarterback's starting jersey and using it as a rug in one of their dorms is my personal highlight so far. This is the level of petty you go to in rivalry week. Animals get stolen, pieces of clothing get stolen, mascots get stolen. It's legalized vandalism and it's funny as I would love to see it up in person.
I really want to watch Tamu, Texas, but it starts at midnight, and if it's not the Lions, I'm not sure I can do it, if I'm honest, but I can't wait to see the results come out, and yeah, great week. And then conference championships next week.
Yep. Yep, we're at that time of year already. And then it'll be the playoffs after that, and then it'll be the draft. And we might be talking about the draft a little bit earlier than last year. Who knows?
I was about to say, I just said to Sarah, you know what, the way it's going, we may not have an episode after the very start of January about the
As I
Lions.
said, I started penning my draft guide the other day. I'm going to do an official draft guide for me for this year, so people can have access to it if they wish. But yeah, I've started penning my own draft guide this year, so it's going to be good fun. Hopefully, that'll be ready for January, February time, and you obviously got to wait and see who declares first. So we'll do all the players, and then whichever ones declare, we can do it for. So it's going to be fun. At least it's going to be even in more depth this year, and you'll get to see more of my notes and that, and fuck the Bears and everything they stand for. But yeah, we'll be that time of year pretty soon.
It looks like Jalen Hurts has fumbled a fucking tush push. And the Bears are going to take over, I think. Let's
Yeah,
see. Right, just rips it out of his hands. Wow.
yeah.
They probably could have blown that dead, if I'm honest. He wasn't making any forward progress, but they didn't, and that's Bears
Well, it looks
ball.
like a Philly player's got it. I think a Philly player's got that
I don't know. Anyway,
because it's stuck behind one of their guys' legs. He can't get to that. I think a Philly player's got that, but I could be wrong.
let's go into the news, which preceded and just followed this game. Transactions: two people were activated from injured reserve. Defensive end Marcus Davenport and guard Miles Frazier. Not activated
Ooh.
and has had their window shut. They are out for the season. Is the defensive end Josh Pascal? Will come back to that. Signed to the main roster, wide receiver Tom Kennedy and tight end Anthony Ferkser. Correspondingly released, running back Craig Reynolds. He's now on the Patriots practice squad. Defensive lineman Quinton Jefferson. Cornerbacks Arthur Millette and Nick Whiteside. Nick Whiteside was signed to the practice squad. And then elevated for this game, the centre Kingsley Guakin and tight end Zach Horton. Inactive for this game, wide receiver Khalif Raymond and tight end Brock Wright. Centre Graham Glasgow and guard Miles Frazier on the offense, and on defense, defensive lineman Mekhi Wingo and Tyler Lacey did not go, as well as safety Kirby Joseph. And then injured for the game, or in the game, first drive, I think it happened, Amon-Ra St. Brown with an ankle. Dan Campbell said it wasn't going to be a major injury, but he might be out a week or two, which could be a hammer blow considering how much we use him. But then, given the fact that he's had this issue with his hand, if we can get through it somehow without him, maybe a blessing in disguise for him, I don't know. And we'll talk about Amon-Ra in just a second, but that Josh Pascal one sticks out like a sore thumb. A sorry end to his Lions career.
Yep. Unfortunate. And one of the many reasons we're struggling this year because we've put a lot of faith into these guys who have just not deserved the faith they've got. So, yeah, it's a shame. But you've got to cut ties with him now. We're going to talk about changes maybe Brad needs to make to his strategy with the Lions later in the show. But one of them is stop being so damn loyal to players who just can't get on the field and are hurt and are inconsistent when they do play. Even at a Vetmin deal now, it's pointless having him here because he's just not done it in 4 years and it's not magically going to change. So it's a shame for him. You never want to see any player through injury, hurt their career and, possibly have to give it up or whatever. And by howdy, have we not seen enough players over the years in this team have their careers ended by injuries just as they're about to start? And we've been hit by the bug what feels like more than any other team. It's probably not, but it feels that way. And it's tough. Second round pick was meant to be the next big part of this team, a big part of the defensive line, and not having him there means you've got to start from scratch again. And every time you lose one of these draft picks, especially your top day two guy, your top 2 day guys, it's a blow for the franchise. But we all knew something was wrong when the season came and he wasn't ready. Like he was meant to be ready for the season, and then they said he's not going to be quite ready for the season. And then we got told, oh, it's going to be mid-September, which is well into the season. And you're like, come on, this just keeps getting put backwards and backwards and backwards. And you're not getting told what's going on with him. There's been no explanation as to what's gone on with him. I know he's had very serious issues which have been covered and documented. And obviously you hope nothing's gone wrong in that regards. But yeah, we're at the stage now where we've got to be a cutthroat organization and just start jettisoning these guys and moving on. So it'll be a shame. And hopefully, that is it now. He could go on. Hopefully he can get healthy, find his career somewhere else. But for us, yeah, it's done now. But it is a real shame.
You know, a career's being derailed when you're legitimately asking the question whether he's more banged up than Marcus Davenport. It is a
Both of them.
competition. It's
Both
been
of both of them. This is it. We're talking, we're going to talk about pressure rates and stuff so much today, and this is the reason we don't have one is because we've just completely neglected the edge two position willingly and patchworked over it with duct tape and nails, and now it's been blown apart. the foundations have been shook and it's really affecting this team. You know, it's these gambles haven't paid off, and we've got to stop taking these gambles on players who just are not backing up the faith you're putting in them, and you're giving them high roster importance as well. Because if Pascal's on this roster and playing, he's what, edge three, something like that. Like, it's a big part, especially with Davenport playing edge two, and not having your edge two or three here all year, pretty much, has just really hampered this team and its ability to go out and hunt quarterbacks down, which is costing us games at this point. So again, on a personal level, like, you just hope he gets healthy and you hope he gets his shot somewhere and you hope he gets back to playing football and he has a long and fruitful career.
Mm.
But in a professional capacity, it's not with us, because we're past this now, and we need to move past this stage.
And then Amon-Ra, the implications of that, obviously down a week or two, at least I would expect, this sort of thing. We've seen injuries linger that perhaps shouldn't. And I know that he's a warrior and he's been playing through stuff, but he's clearly not been right for a while. I know he had the 150-yard game against the Giants, but weak start in that game, potentially was culpable for a turnover. It's not been his best season by any stretch because of the injuries. This sucks for him. It sucks for us big time, considering how we're using him. I know JMO was really the benefactor of that, and we'll come on to that when we talk about the game, but what a loss for the Lions. And I mean, he's never really had a stretch of injury at all in his Lions career.
No, he's just had a couple of games here and there. I don't think he's ever been on IR. Unless maybe he was for a bit of that first year. I could be wrong, but he's obviously the heartbeat and all it's about. And our play action game, which we rely so heavily on, the third down stuff, which we rely so heavily on, it's him. And to not have him there is just going to be a huge loss, because you've got no Raymond in there either. You are down. Laporte are in there. You're down a lot of your reliable pass catchers in short yardage situations, which we're having to resort to a lot of the minute, because we don't have the offensive line to start taking shots downfield all the time. So these short to intermediate guys who matter so much to us are all out now. No Laporte for probably the rest of the year. No Amon-Ra now for a couple of weeks at least, and we're in must-win territory now. Let's not make no bones about this. We have to. It's no ifs, ands, or buts anymore. You've got to win games, purely and simply. And the fact we're not going to have him for the stretch, the two next opponents are fucking incredibly difficult, and we've not got our two best pass catchers here in reliable situations. Is it's just tough for us, and maybe it shows that we've got to diversify this offense a bit more, and like I said, maybe get Jared's eyes away from Amon-Ra, because we're now, who's next? No one's behind him. There's no one there who we rely on him so much. And maybe this will be a good thing that Goff's going to start using others now. JMO had a noticeable increase yesterday. It's going to be good for JMO. Tesla's starting to get a few more targets. Hopefully, it's going to be a good thing for him as well. You got to try and find the positives where they are. Maybe when Amon-Ra's back, Jared's eyes aren't going to be in one place all the time anymore. They're going to be all over looking for a variety of guys. But obviously you can't afford to lose Amon-Ra going into Dallas and LA. You just can't. He's one of your best players on your team, and it's just a massive blow.
All right, let's go into the box score for this game. Packers win 31-24 over the Lions, and Jordan Love with a efficient performance, didn't set the world alight, but he got the passes done in the key moments, and that's really what set the teams apart. He was 18 of 30 for 234, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Their rushing offense as well didn't blow us away, but did enough. Josh Jacobs 17 for 83, Bo Melton 2 for 15. Overall, they got 30 carries for 125. It's nothing crazy. And Josh Jacobs had a 29-yarder. So if you take that out, the remaining 16 carries went for 54 yards. That's fine. That's 3.5 yards a carry. Your defense is doing enough to keep you in the game there. Receiving-wise, Dontavian Wicks, we do have a habit of making him look good sometimes. 6 of 7 for 94 and 2 touchdowns. Christian Watson, 4 of 10 for 80 and a touchdown. Romeo Dobbs, 4 of 4 for 20 and a touchdown, being their 4 receiving touchdowns. For the Lions on offense, Goff with an efficient performance, 20 of 26 for 256, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He started 0 for 3, which means he went 20 for 23 down the stretch. And 27 passes attempted, including David Montgomery had one. We tried 30 rushing attempts, 20 for Gibbs for 68 yards. David Montgomery 8 for 32 and a touchdown, and Goff himself had 1 for 24 on a very nice run. We haven't seen him do enough of that, if I'm frank. Receiving wise, JMO had his best game of the season, I think. 7 of 10 for 144 and a touchdown. And Isaac Teslar was 2 of 2 for 35 and a touchdown. Worth mentioning Tom Kennedy, 4 of 4 for 36. He took on the Amon-Ra role and actually had some key third downs where he converted very, very nicely. I was very impressed by him. He's kind of carried forward some sort of preseason form from previous years, because I can't remember him doing much in this preseason, but he showed up when we needed him. There was a fumble by David Montgomery, but it was recovered by Jared Goff. And then the Green Bay Packers fumbled twice, but they did not lose it either. Got very fortunate with one, actually, where Rashid Walker recovered a fumble by Romeo Dobbs. On defense, we were led by Brian Branch with 10 total tackles. We had no sacks and 1 TFL by Alex Anzalone. That was telling in the game. Green Bay were led by Isaiah McDuffie with 12 total tackles. They had 3 sacks, 2.5 of which were by Micah Parsons, 1 by Kingsley Enagbare. They did have a sack chalked off as well for a flag. And then 7 TFLs total. So in addition to the sacks, there was 2 by Isaiah McDuffie, 1 by Keyshawn Nixon, 1 by Devontae Wyatt. They were putting us under pressure in run and pass. It was a slog for the Lions all game. Kickers were perfect. Not a huge amount of punting in this game either. And overall, reading your guys' comments about the game and then watching the game after that, I came away thinking it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's just gutting that it's against the Packers. But your comment was absolutely right in a WhatsApp group that we're a part of. At no time did it feel like the Lions were going to win this game.
No. And I've seen people trying to twist stats today so badly. We had the same rushing yards, we had the same passing yards, we had the same time of possession, we had the same this and same that. The only stat we don't have is the 4th downs, making it seem like the only reason we didn't win this game was because of 4th down stuff. Come on, use your eyes. It wasn't. And I know, with the reffing calls and that, we can say, 2 touchdowns don't happen. If they do, etc., and maybe they don't, and maybe we get another if we convert with the JMO one that Goff just completely messed up. But you got absolutely bitched on the line of scrimmage, completely and utterly on both sides of the ball. You got destroyed again, and that's happened twice now against the Packers. Their defensive line, destructive, blows our game completely out of the water, stops us running the ball, forces us into short yardage situations because we can't hold up long enough to pass the ball down the field, putting us exactly where they want us. And then on our side, we didn't touch Jordan Love at all. It didn't matter. Jordan Love didn't need a rushing game. Saying that Jacobs ran for 3.8 yards per carry whatsoever is not a gold star. That's not a well done. You did something right. It didn't matter at all. They just abused our man coverage scheme because we couldn't pressure the damn quarterback. We said this against the Giants, where the Giants ultimately lost their game against the Packers was they couldn't get to Jordan Love. They let him roam around in the pocket, untouched, extend plays, so the secondary couldn't hold up. We're asking a secondary full of players coming back from serious injury and guys we've picked up off the street, a ragtag bunch, essentially, that's not healthy, to keep trying to hold up in coverage all this time because we can't get a sack on the quarterback. And of course, guys are going to get free. And they just abused us. And for the first time, I was angry at Kelvin after yesterday because he didn't adjust. He just kept doing the same thing again and again and again and again and again and again, and it was the same result again and again and again and again and again. And then offensively, you're just 3 games in a row now. We've not scored a point in the first quarter. Not a single point in 3 games. And for the second game in a row, we found ourselves 10-0 down after the first quarter or right at the start of the second. You can't, with the team with the shape it is in, when its offensive line is already banged up and struggling in pass pro and struggling to get rhythm, you can't keep going double-digit points down early in games because then you're chasing the game for the rest of it. Look at us yesterday. And against the Giants, we were chasing and we couldn't get until they imploded at the end. But against the Packers, every time we hit them, they hit us straight back. And because we were down 10 early, we could never get the extra possession we needed to get in front. And then we had to start playing that stupid game at the end where Dan's trying to play for one final possession at the end of the game, wasting a ton of time in the process. And then ultimately they burn us because we never get the opportunity to have that last drive because we give up 2 critical downs, the third and the fourth down. The third down to give them a new set of downs to start with, and then the fourth down, which would have given us the ball back in a good position to do it because we're playing from behind.
Yeah.
And there's just problems after problems after problems. 3 sacks in regulation in the last 4 games. Unacceptable. Unable to start well on offense early. Unacceptable. Putting us in positions where we just can't win with this team. We wouldn't have won against the Giants if it was anybody else, and we said that. What would we do 10 points down in a game against a playoff contender in the fourth quarter that's not the Giants? We'd lose. Lo and behold, we did lose. I'm just absolutely furious after this with the way that they're behaving and the way they're going about things and just how little is changing. And we're once again having the same conversations as we did in 24, in 23. Well, maybe not in 23 because we got far, but in 22. And these conversations don't change.
Yeah. I think I can sum up this game quite well by saying that in previous years we have accused LaFleur of being weak, of taking the easy road, of, failing when it matters most, of being a kind of just bullshit artist of a coach. He coached a team to play like us, like we want to play. They beat us in the trenches. They didn't settle for field goals in 4th and short. And when the time came to end it all on 4th and 3, which is not as short as he would like it to be, he decided to go for the kill. Packers teams in the past, instead of going for those 4th down touchdowns that they got, would have kicked field goals. And then when it came to 4th down with 2 minutes to go, he would have punted. LaFleur has learned from watching us how to have a bit more of a killer instinct, which is quite dangerous because even though we got bullied on the offensive and defensive lines, watching this game back, I do not think we were substantially worse than the Packers, really. It was a bit more of a struggle for us, but when things really, really mattered, they manned the fuck up. And we didn't.
I mean, it's okay to say we weren't significantly worse with them, but we have to take accountability here because, especially you for this season have panned the Packers and said how basic and average they are. And you have not said many nice things about this team.
No, the Packers are really bad.
So if you're saying they're really bad and we're worse than they are, even if it's just a little bit, what is that saying about our team? It's an indictment on our saying that we were only a little bit worse than the Green Bay Packers when we're saying the Green Bay Packers are a bad football team. It's a huge indictment on our team. It's not just saying we were 5% worse.
Yeah,
exactly.
Frankly, this Detroit Lions team does not deserve to go to the playoffs.
And this is the problem I'm having today. And again, people listen to me a lot. I go with my feelings, and I've been airing my concerns about this team and its ability to take the next step mentally under pressure. And because we're going to get teams' best shots every week. And as you've just said, LaFleur has learnt from Dan. He's realised that he has to come to Ford Field and he has to put us away by being aggressive. He has to put us away by being dominant on the line of scrimmage. He has to put us away by basically playing football the way we do. But the Green Bay Packers throwing everything they have at us, which they did. And we're going to face that on a weekly basis. And can this team act like a champion who can get hit hard by these heavy blows and, maybe stagger a bit, but then regain the footing and land a knockout punch back on them that's harder and say, well, look, you're good, but we're better. And the fact now that we are going into week 14 and we have not won back-to-back games since week 5 is an indictment now of how long this team has been struggling inconsistently. It's winning, losing, winning, losing, winning, losing. It can't string together wins anymore. It's struggling with the pressure of being a contender. And yes, we can say injuries have hurt us. We can say that there's been this and been that. Until this week going, we've had Laporta injured on the offense. Vast majority of the rest of the offense has been healthy. We've not had seriously big issues on offense where we've had none of our stars available to us. So that's bull. The defense, up until these last 2 weeks, has been pretty damn good this year. And it's been keeping us in games. It's been making stops. This is not a talent issue. And we have not been hamstrung by injuries the way we have in past years. So if it's not a talent issue, it's an issue up here. They're not ready. And the trouble now is I've had unwavering faith in Dan and Brad and this team because as we've talked about loads and loads and loads, every time this team has come up against a hurdle and has been knocked down, going all the way back to that first loss against the Panthers that stopped us getting into the playoffs in year 2, they've responded. They've gone away, they've licked their wounds, they've learnt their lessons, they've come back and they've gotten better. And year on year and year, there's been progress in that manner. And yes, the Washington game last year was a letdown, but we got the 1 seed for the first time, we got 15 wins for the first time. We were acting and, behaving like a champion does, winning lots of games, dominating opponents, and playing really good football. And, we just got in the playoffs. It sometimes happens. This year is the first time we've really hit, for me, a block in our ascent up towards the Super Bowl. And right now I'm questioning they've plateaued and they can't find the ingredients to start going up again and they're plateauing. And the dangerous thing when you plateau is you can start getting dragged back down again into bad habits. And, if you lose faith that the way you're doing it is not happening no more, slow and steady is the way down. And I have serious concerns that this team can't overcome its challenges at least this year. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on this off season. We've been, the calls are going to get louder and louder. We can only build through the draft for so long. We're going to have to go eventually. Because this year it looks like we're going to have to put a lot of draft stock into our trenches to rebuild and to retool the areas we need. But we can't then walk into 2026 and go, oh, well, we've got lots of young rookies on the lines and the trenches at the minute. 2026 is not going to be our year either. We're going to have to wait till 2027. We start pushing expectations back and we risk punting seasons trying to do this. The team is going to have to start getting aggressive now. It's going to have to start looking in free agency more. It's going to have to go away from its mantra of just drafting everybody because we're falling behind now. And mistakes in building this roster are now starting to hurt us, which has never been the case before. But there are long-term issues that haven't been addressed, which are now starting to bite us. This is my big concern after this game now. We have watched ourselves get bitched by the Packers twice in the same manner, and teams are dominating us now, and we are not learning and we are not adapting like we have done in years previous.
There's always issues with builds of teams where they have a cycle which starts to come to an end, or it needs to have something happen to elevate it and it sinks or swims from that point. And we've seen that normally with coordinator changes. And I do think a lot of this just boils down to we do miss Ben Johnson. You have a look at what he's done with the Bears, who have invested, but this is a remarkably similar team to last year, pending the draft. And he's working magic with that team. And he's making Caleb look like a serviceable quarterback, which, considering last year, is a fucking miracle.
And it's the team that's built its team through free agency, not the draft. It's just spent a lot of money in free agency and kept going again and again and again and has eventually found a cycle and made it work. There are not many of their draft prospects fueling this team outside of their quarterback.
Right now, both running backs for the Bears are over 115 yards each.
Yeah. And it's the creativity on offense is dead. And I put it out there yesterday early in the game. Why are we not taking more shots? And I just got bombarded with the pass pro can't hold up long enough to take shots downfield. Okay, then give me an answer. Don't just say we can't do it and pretend like it's all right. You've got to give me an answer as to what, because if we know we can't do it, they know we can't do it. And the
And then they
Packers
come
quite
downhill,
clearly
yeah.
knew every team, you watch their defenses, their safeties are almost acting like extra defensive tackles. They're just stuck in a box and they're absolute every time. Why does it feel like every time we have a run, they've got a free blitzer going through a gap to hit our running back? Why? Because the safeties are up and we don't have enough blockers in because they're committing so many men against it and they are having success against it. And with the safeties been up, the corners come up a little bit more. They're attacking the screenplays. They're attacking the short passes. They're getting into our guys at the line of scrimmage and delaying the routes being built. And it's just rinse and repeat again and again and again. And we're doing very little to try and alleviate that. The one time we did in this game was on the Tesla touchdown. They were in jumbo pretty much the entire drive, just using JMO and Tesla as receivers. I've been screaming for this for ages. Have two receivers. That's all you need. On that drive alone, on the touchdown pass, JMO into the end zone, comes across, takes every single defender with him because they're concerned, because we're targeting him for the day. Tesla has the easiest touchdown catch he's ever going to have in his life. But why can we wait for that route to develop? Because they're in jumbo, they've got extra blockers in, which gives Jared Goff that extra second he needs to wait for the route to develop and complete it. And it was wonderful. And then we stopped doing it. Why? It's almost like we find a way to do something and win some points, and then when we think we're back in this game again, we're safe, we go back to the Lions way of football. Because it's always, we can't stay out that sphere. As soon as we get close enough, we've got to go back to how we do it, because that's the way to do it. And they've been stubborn and they've been pig-headed. Stay doing this all the time. Don't go back to this. It's lazy, it's predictable, and it's costing us. And teams at the start of games now are getting bold. As I've said, 3 games in a row, no points in the first quarter. Why? Because defenses are getting aggressive on us early. They're putting bend on our pass protection early. Why? To stop us taking shots early and make us predictable early. And that's what's happening. And it's every team we play is going to see this. The Cowboys will be in their study room all week going, right, well, I know exactly what I'm doing when we play the Lions next week. The Rams the week after that. They'll be licking their lips at this going, doesn't take much to disrupt this Lions offense anymore because there's no creativity to it and there's no ingenuity to it anymore. They're desperate to just play a heavy run game now and act like a triple option side, and that's it. And they will keep going back to it and they will never stop trying to do that. So we'll always have opportunities against it.
Yeah. It's the complaint that we've had for most of the season, that we've seen plays or ideas be successful. And at some point, they just go, that works. I'll pop that in my back pocket for another time. And it's like, what? Why are you taking your foot off the throat? I don't understand why you have ideas which work and then go, we'll try something else now. I don't even necessarily think it's going back to the Lions' way. The play calling is that of a person playing Madden and not living and breathing the game in a way which kind of feels what you should do in the correct way as the Bears score another touchdown to go 2 scores up against the Eagles. You know what? The Bears are going to win the division, aren't they? They are going to win it. They're going to be a 9-3 football team. They're going to be ahead of Philadelphia in the
Yep,
conference
yep. And if
with
Ben
the
starts winning,
tiebreaker.
we've got to watch the Rams be one of the best teams in the NFC North when they've blown it up after winning the Super Bowl, and now we've got to watch the Bears rise up like this.
Yeah.
You know
Anyway,
what? I think getting that NFC Championship game so early was a bad thing for us. We went way past where we were at the time, and it's given us that taste, and we weren't ready. And it's now that we can't, the longer you don't get back, the more it's going to hang over you.
maybe, but we should have got to the Super Bowl. So, you
But
know,
it put us way, it's like Washington last year, way ahead of expectations last year, and they've regressed to the mean this year. But they're going to assume that going to a championship game is a big deal now, and you know what I mean. Sometimes you
maybe.
can.
But at the end of the day, I think the lesson that is being learned here is you can have the best roster in the NFL or close to it, because I do believe that we are right up there. But unless you have on offense a mercurial play caller, you're always going to be prone to having the odd bad game on offense, and that really derails a lot of things. And when Jared Goff's your quarterback, who's a confidence guy, having those blips makes a big difference because he can run those into multiple games. And I don't want to rag on Goff too much because I don't think he was the problem in this game particularly. He had the throw to JMO, which sucked, and he had a really bad start with 3 missed passes. But overall, I think he
Oh, he
probably did
wasn't the
enough to.
reason.
He did enough that the Lions should have been competing in this game greater than we were. But play calling on offense sucked. Offensive and defensive line sucked. But the defensive line's the biggest problem. And actually, I think it's quite an interesting discussion now because everyone's talking about, oh, we really need to go for a centre. And we haven't mentioned Frank's news yet. That's actually something I'm going to talk about right at the end of the show because I think it's worth its own little bit. But fans were convinced we need to go centre, we need to go left tackle. Those are the two biggest needs. The longer this goes on, and just to highlight this, everyone's complaining about Ali McNeil playing on the edge. But he had 7 pressures apparently compared to Hutch's 3. Like, you can't have Hutch being paid this much money and him not absolutely wreck shit up. And it's an unfortunate bar to put on him, but because we don't have other people like that on the defensive line, he has to be a game breaker, and he's just not being right now. So edge, I'm not talking edge to rival Hutchinson. We need another edge one. We need someone else to wreck shit up. You have a look at Philly, and I know they're struggling against Bears right now, but they've invested so much resources in that defensive line, and it does work.
It's their identity. Like the Rams' identity has always been the defensive line. That is the unit that wins them games. The Eagles, it's the defensive line that wins them games, and the offensive line for a part as well. But you're right. Hutch, one we'll come back to in a minute, but he accepted the deal he signed. He accepted that contract, and when you accept that contract, there are ramifications that come with that contract. When Lions fans have got to sit there and watch Micah Parsons absolutely wreck anything we're trying to do on offense with meaningful, actual plays in a game, and then they're watching their edge one be chipped, be completely and utterly ineffective, and screw whatever PFF has said about pressures. You saw it, I saw it, every single one of you at home saw it. There was no pressure yesterday. Period. Blank. No, all right, in fact, I'll change that. There was no effective pressure yesterday.
Yeah, agreed.
There was no pressure that affected the game, that affected Jordan Love and his ability to make plays. You may have got within a yard of the QB, which counts as a pressure, whatever the fuck PFF uses as their metric. You had no discernible ability there yesterday, and it's hard to stomach, especially when all the defenders goes, well, Hutch gets triple teamed, Hutch gets... Does Micah Parsons not get double teamed? Does Myles Garrett not get double teamed? You love this guy, that's great. I love him, but he has taken on a contract which is in the level of these guys. So he has got to start acting like a guy who is in the level of these guys. and no sacks in the last two. I know he got six QB hits last week. What did that matter? I know he got the sack right at the end of the game, but it's in overtime. Had a whole game to make an impression and didn't. But, he made the play he needed to.
Yeah.
But it's not acceptable, no. And I'm not getting gaslighted anymore by the media into saying that this is acceptable and we should just accept this is all Hutch is ever going to be. A high pressure guy who doesn't get that many sacks and hits or game changing attacks because he's just marked all the time.
Well, the thing is, he
I'm
proved
not
last
going to
year
get
that he
gas.
wasn't going to be that guy. And actually, the way he
Yeah.
started the season, he didn't look like he was going to be that guy. But the last 5 games or so, he's gone notably off the boil.
No, and this comes into the wider discussion. Like where I do defend Hutch is that every single other guy on that line needs scrutinizing. AQM has gone missing.
Yeah.
Davenport, did he even come back yesterday? I don't know. In the middle, Reader is our veteran, and again, getting gaslighted into believing he's going to be a pressure guy when he's never had more than 4 sacks a season in his career, or is it three? I think he's never had more
He
than
had
three
he
sacks.
broke his records with us last season, I think, which was 3.
Yeah, so he's not a sustained pass rusher. Tyleek, never been a pass rusher,
Hmm.
never gonna be a pass rusher. That is the type of guy we've gone after, and this is one of Brad's draft faults. And I can, and people will say, well, what the fuck do you know compared to Brad? I know nothing compared to Brad in the draft, but I do watch a lot of film. I do watch a lot of players, and I do watch how teams have been built. And, I'm not the cleverest guy in the world, but I've said this to you when we do our draft coverage. Year in, year out, we're looking at the wrong type of player. What are we doing? We're focusing entirely on what they can do in run defense. That's it. Edges, D tackles, all that.
Yeah.
It's what can you do in the run game because we want to stop the run. It is a noble concept. It is a good concept. If you have a line that can stop the run, it makes the game easier for you. But yesterday you saw the flip side. The Packers didn't have a run game yesterday. What did it matter? When you can't hit the quarterback, that stock you've put into stopping the run, you know what that means? Nothing. It is not valuable in the slightest for you. And I don't even think they were particularly good in the run defense yesterday. I thought the edge players were atrocious yesterday trying to set the edge, and there were way too many runs on the outside because they bit inside. But they have not at all prioritized pass rush. I told you when we drafted Tyleek, he's not a pass rusher. I told them when they drafted Pascal, he's not a pass rusher. All these guys they've been drafting are all run defense. They are no pass rusher. There's no Arsenal in there. There is no production in there. There is no thing they can work on with to get the pass rush up because they're getting these big chunky guys against the run. Like a guy who's sub 250 pounds can't defend against the run, which is just bull. Guys who are sub 250 can defend against the run. It depends how you use them.
Oh, look
But
at
because
Donovan
we've gone
Izaraku.
yeah, I got told last year when I was championing Izuruaku, oh no, the Lions can't have him. He's not a good run defender. He's 6'4". He's 240 pounds or whatever. He's too light. He's not bulky enough. He's not what we need in a can crushing edge. Okay, fine, whatever. Do you want to see Marcus Davenport every week? Do you want to see Josh Pascal every week crushing a few runs and having absolutely no pressure whatsoever on the quarterback? They don't care about the pass rush ability of a player. All they care about is the run defense. And at the point of day, there is, if you believe the run defense comes first and the pass rush can come second and you can increase that to same levels, why the hell can't you get a guy who pass rushes really well, whose run defense is a little iffy or a little mediocre? Why can't you train him to be better and get to the point where it's level and there are the guys you want? There's just been no investment in guys who can pass rush. And I have said this for years now. Hutch and Aleem are the only ones they have invested in who have pass rush upside or have a pass rush arsenal before they come to college, before they come to the NFL. I did a Liam's tape. I showed you his pass rush stuff. We had it. With all these other guys, we haven't. And all I've been told is, oh, well, we can develop them into pass rushers. Natural pass rushers out of college are much better. You can't just teach a natural pass rush in the NFL if they've
Yeah.
not done it in college. They've got to have the right intangibles. They've got to have diverse moves. They've got to have different ways they can hit you. And the Lions have got, for the love of God, to start prioritizing pass rush in their draft picks and not look solely at what he does against the
Yeah,
run.
you're not
This is
asking
what
for
we've
someone to be a
seen.
complete liability against the run. You're just asking for someone who has a little bit of run defense juice, who can rush the passer. One thing that's going to be interesting is the fact that there are a reasonable number of swings you can take in the market of people who aren't going to get another contract at their current team. So I do think you should probably take two bites at this cherry. I am on board with the first round pick being an edge player, but I do think you should invest in a vet. And there are people coming up for being out of contract who you could potentially have a swing at. And I'm looking at, some of them are going to seem like a bit of another Charles Harris. But I don't think that's the worst idea in the world, especially if the upside is there. But also, you could take a bit more of a substantial swing at this and invest in the first round pick. And then suddenly, maybe Hutch doesn't have to play every rep. And maybe that's why he's burnt out, to someone's comment on YouTube. If you actually rotated Hutch in and out a bit, maybe he'd be more effective on an every down basis. But regardless of that point, Odafe Owe got traded to the Chargers for a bag of peanuts. He's got chops. Now, he's going to get paid a fair bit, but we could be in on those stakes. If you have a look at people like David Ajabo, I know he's been blighted by injury his career, but he has got pass rush chops. You've got Boye Mafe from the Seahawks. Now, he probably should get a new contract from Seattle, but you never know. He's got some pass rush chops. Who knows how much is going to get paid? There are people who are a little bit older, like Dietrich Wise, who's a little bit more run defendery, but he still has pass rush chops. Quitty Pay with the Colts, former Michigan man as well. He's got some pass rush chops. Now, he's not been quite as good as you'd hope for in the NFL, but he's better than what we have. There are a significant number of players in the edge position who are vets who we can have a go at this year. So I'm not even saying go for two. Go fucking three. One in the draft, two vets. Let's fix this. Like we did with cornerback by going for Rakestraw and Arnold. Double down on this stuff. Like, go for it.
Yeah, and and the big thing is you've got, because everyone and all the beat writers are like, well, it's not Hutch's fault. None of the others can win their one-on-ones because you've not invested in any players who can win a one-on-one. You can see this. Tyreek Williams doesn't win one-on-ones. He's a run blocker in pass protection. DJ Reader doesn't win one-on-ones because it's not what he does. AQM doesn't win one-on-ones regularly because he's a rotational guy who doesn't have the pass rush upside that makes him a star and gets him paid. Marcus Davenport can't win one-on-ones. It's all right saying other guys have got to win one-on-ones, but you're investing in players who can't win them. And you're acting surprised when they don't. It's not Tyreek's fault that he's not getting pressure. It's not his game. He is in there to be the anchor against the run, and to expect him to be a legitimate pass rushing threat who's taking advantage of Hutch taking up three guys is not fair. It's not what he does, and it's something I will never hold him to. Tyreek is excused from these discussions. It's not his job. It's not what he does. The rest of them, and you can see it on their tape. Aleem is getting played out of position. He works better. He's a 320-pound, 6'4" man. You don't stick him on an edge and try and get him winning round the edge. You need speed to win round the edge. Aleem doesn't have breakneck speed because he's a 320-pound defensive tackle. And it's really, really annoying me because, again, I do the draft stuff every year. I profile these players, and the first thing I say with them, they're not natural pass rushers.
Yeah. And the
And
thing
it's
about the
just
people who
run
like
defense
you have the
stuff.
projection of, it's a projection. The ones who've actually done it in college are less of a projection. And you know what? Projections don't always come true, but if you've shown you've had it before, it can come back. That's why someone like Derek Stingley got drafted so high at cornerback, because his last 2 years of college were not great, but he showed it in his first year, and suddenly he's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL when he gets drafted. As long as they've shown it at some point,
Exactly.
then they can bring that back. And that
I'm
is a projection of a different kind.
Exactly. I'm sick of seeing our defensive linemen just throw themselves into block. The amount of times they just try to bull rush a guy, they just run at him. And it's so easy for these offensive linemen to just anchor and hold them enough and get through it. You watch the diversity and watch the all 20 footage when you're watching these pass rushers and look at the sheer lack of diversity in pass rush moves when these guys are trying to get home because they didn't naturally do it in college.
Yeah.
And the guys who do it in college, even the low school guys, you see in Javen Solomon now for Buffalo, is starting to have more of an impact on that team. He's starting to break through into their. I think it's Solomon. They took both Troy Edges. I can't remember which one of them starting to break through into that team now. But the first thing you saw on tape with these guys, yes, at Troy, you are taught to defend the run very well in the Sun Belt. It is one of your biggest, jobs and responsibilities there. But both guys had every single pass rush move in their arsenal. You saw bull rush, you saw speed rush round the edge, active hands, quick inside rushes. Just every time they would target different parts of an offensive lineman, and he just couldn't cope with it because he didn't know where they were going. And you could see that as a projection from a group of five guy and go, he's got a better chance of making it eventually than just some run stuff in plonker from the power four. Because, in college, some guys just win with speed and power in college because the level is not as good. They come up to the NFL and that speed and power doesn't work no more because you're coming up against guys who've got more speed and more power. The guys in college who have dedicated to learning their art, and you can watch them play, watch drives, watch how they set pass rush moves up, watch what they use. You can see the ones who have this natural ability and keep going at it. And every time we pick guys, they're guys I've seen who just don't do that. We're just working with intangibles. And this is one of the draft processes that we've had that is now starting to bite with us because it doesn't matter that Hutch is taking three blockers up because you've just invested in guys who can't win one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Something's got to change.
This is why I was so high on Laiatu Latu in the 2024 NFL draft, because he didn't have,
Devastating speed to power rusher.
but he wasn't an especially quick man, and he's not an
No,
especially powerful man, but he is an absolute technician.
yeah. Devastating speed to power with some of the most active arms you'll ever see in your life. And that's why he was valued so highly. Some teams didn't because of the size. That's stupid. Doesn't matter at the NFL. Sacks matter in the NFL. Our prioritizing of the run game on offense and defense is hurting this team. Um, Again, you have to take it into account. You really do, but you've got to make big plays on defense. You can't just try and stop the run all the time and hope somebody magically gets home there.
Yeah.
You've seen it the last two games now. In this draft cycle, by all means, find a guy who fits your role, who's maybe a bit bigger, who's maybe a bit chunkier, and you can build to defend against the edge. But watch his tape and see what he's like as a pass rusher as well, that can throw something different in there, because you are just doomed to repeat failure. That's why I was so mad with the Pascal pick. I knew he's not a pass rusher. He's some tweener clunker. He's not really an edge. He's not really a D tackle, but he's got the body size, and they're just going to try and turn him into a run stuffer. But I told you, watching this thing, he's got no pass rush moves whatsoever. And
No.
what have we seen 2 years later? He's never been effective as a pass rusher because he didn't have it in college, and that was a projection you could see miles away.
And his calling card was how quick he was behind the line of scrimmage, that he could get to his mark and stop the run. Well, they're quicker in the NFL, and it's actually not been as effective as you would like it to be in the thing he was meant to be good at in the first place. So you're right. the blinkers are on and they're taking players that actually don't. They end up not fitting the scheme in some
No,
ways. Even for what they're intending to do, he kind of doesn't fit, and that's really weird.
yeah.
But anyway,
It's
it's a
it's
weird
this
thing to do.
core belief you've got to have one pass rusher and one run defender on your edge category. And it's just, it doesn't work because it just creates imbalance. And as you said, it's putting so much pressure on Hutch because we're not getting sacks and we're not getting legitimate game-changing pressures. We've got to put him out there every play because he's the only one who can do it outside of a Liam.
Yeah.
And it's burning him out. Again, this is just talking about the imbalance that's been created about this team, and that's one of them.
hmm Okay, I've got a couple of points about this game specifically because we've basically just gone on to kind of the wider discussion. Um, from someone who watched the game afterwards, I found the procedural penalties especially frustrating. One of the things that Campbell has preached since being here is, especially at the start, it was, we may be shit, but we're not going to put us in a bad situation, i.e. no false starts, no holding, no illegal formations, all of that sort of stuff that just makes life hard for you. The fact that they had 2 illegal formation penalties was not acceptable at all. Like, the offense is hard enough when your offensive line can't fucking block people. The starting 5 yards back, or getting like second and short and then having second and long, like, come on, guys, like, sort it out. It's not right. I did think the defense had moments, especially breaking passes up. I thought that the DBs played admirably given the lack of pass rush we had up front. I thought that we dealt with Parsons actually quite well for a good amount of this game, but Parsons showed up when it mattered most in really, really, really high leverage plays. He wrecked shit up. So, down to down, I didn't think he had a great game, but he was devastating when he wanted to be. The sack where he beat Decker basically off the snap on the outside was holy shit.
And what even was the move he used? It didn't.
It's just a
He just
little
moved his
swim.
arms a
Yeah, it's
little
just a
bit. It
tiny
was
little
a little
swim.
shimmy.
Yeah. Little
And
head
Taylor
fake, and Decker
Decker is
just fell for it.
and Taylor Decker's a top 10 left tackle in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Line and I understand. I understand sometimes the criticism of Hutch is too much. I also understand why people are criticizing him because they have to sit and watch Micah Parsons make plays like that while our guy does nothing.
Yeah.
And we all say that Hutch is in Micah's category. So why is Hutch not doing that?
It's a fair
Micah
question. It's a fair question.
Parsons. Micah Parsons is the lead player on that defense. Bearing in mind that defense has no defensive tackles at all. It loses Devontae Wyatt during the game. It loses Edgar and Cooper during the game. So you've got no Key Walker, no Edgar and Cooper, no Devontae Wyatt, no Carl Brooks. Literally, that entire spine of that defense that should mean we're able to run through it because they're missing every single starter in there needs help. Well, there's your help. Your star edge rusher makes the plays that takes the pressure off the rest of your defense, and he made the critical plays that mattered. He ended 2 drives on his own, and that's what you pay them that extra money for, to take the pressure off the rest of your defense. When our secondary needed Hutch, when our interior needed Hutch, he was nowhere to be found. And I can understand why people are angry.
Yeah.
Again, I think sometimes it goes too far, but I get it. And it's credit to the Packers. The fact we couldn't run the football in this game and they're missing their 4 interior starters at D tackle and linebacker is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Jeff Hafley is a magician at defensive coordinator, and I can't wait till the goes out the conference.
Couple of other things, obviously, the refs were an issue again, and it's not something we want to make a point of, but considering we're reporting
Cost us
what
12
happened,
points.
they did cost us a significant amount of points. Dontavian Wicks had the touchdown in the corner where the commentary box were convinced that he had not got the feet down because he was bobbling the ball. That tells you everything that needed to be said about that play, I think. And then otherwise, you had Not just the false start where they apparently got a timeout in, which clearly was wrong. But I think there were several missed false starts on the Packers in this game in key moments where the Lions could have had an extra 5 yards and instead they converted for first downs, and that really, really made a big difference.
It did. I mean, we got away with a couple. The Meeks DPI one we got away with, which I think was a third down into a fourth down
Hmm.
situation. We in the first half they really hosed us. And again, it's just pressure in the game. Everyone's going, oh, the Packers convert on two fourth downs. They're amazing. No, the Packers convert on two fourth downs because the refs allow them to. It wasn't because of their own skill. They both not neither should have counted. They should have been kicking a field goal for the second one because there's no way they're going for it on 4th and 7 or whatever it is. And the first one should just not count as a touchdown. It should be a turnover on downs. It is shoddy officiating, and I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of having the enjoyment taken out of games and having to write angry tweets about the refs because they get involved. Everybody and their mother saw Matt LaFleur with hand over his mouth, calling plays, not calling a timeout. You can see the right guard jump. You can see the flag be thrown before Matt LaFleur is even moving. And for the refs to just come out and when asked, they said he told us before the false start. It's like you're on camera. You are literally on camera. There is no way you as a ref could hear Matt LaFleur on a fourth down when he stood 15 yards away from you in Ford Field when the entire stadium has rose the decibels to an absolutely
Well, I mean, you
deafening
don't even
pace.
have to
The
do that.
quarterback couldn't hear.
You don't
His
even have to do that. At the end of the day, it would be great if there was evidence like, I don't know, you mic'd up the fucking coach so we could hear what was saying when it was being said. There's a way of actually physically proving this factually. Release
Yeah,
the audio.
yeah.
Show us that he physically said that instead of calling plays. Because there's no fucking way.
No, and that's a game killer. That one is. That's when we're just getting back into the game, and it's a big defensive stop, and the whole trajectory of the game changes. It's 3 instead of 7, and it's who knows how the game happens after that. I get the feeling we would have lost anyway, but still, I don't want refereeing decisions highlighting and affecting our games.
Yeah,
And it is a legitimate, it's not us moaning about the rest. This is a legitimate part of the way this game turned out. Two refereeing calls that were incorrect indirectly resulted in touchdowns for the Packers. Or directly, sorry, resulted in touchdowns that affected the Packers. And
yeah,
they beat us by 7. And I'm tired, and I know Dan will get in trouble if he says anything, but I'm quite frank, I'm tired of Dan not calling this out. It's all right him every week saying we need to be better, we need to execute better, we need to do all this. Screw it, Dan. I want you to get angry. I want you to be angry with these calls. I want you to call this stuff out so we don't have to keep going through it again and again and again. And I just want an NFL head coach to have the balls to call it out
yeah,
because it's happening too much. And again, I admit the Packers got some bad calls against us, and they have every right to be aggrieved as well in the second half. This was both teams. The standard is poor, and we accept it. And we allow them to gaslight us into thinking this is acceptable, and it's not.
yeah. All right. Let's do stock up, stock down, and then I'm going to talk about Frank Ragg now because we haven't addressed that yet. Is there anyone you want to highlight for having a good game?
JMO. JMO was out of this world in this game. And this is not just his receiving stuff either. The 7 catches for 150 yards or whatever it was. The Tesla touchdown drive. One, when Jared Goff goes on his 25 odd yard run, whatever it was, who's the guy on the perimeter throwing the block to allow him to do it? Jameson Williams. When Isaac Tesla gets his touchdown, who's the man who has cleared out the entire end zone to give Isaac Tesla one of the easiest touchdown catches he will ever have in his life? Jameson Williams. The second he cuts in the safety in the corner, all they're doing is they're eyeing up JMO. They have no idea where Tesla is. The safety who's on Tesla also has his head looking at JMO, not realizing that Tesla's running a route behind him. The effect that JMO has on this team was magnified in this game because Amon-Ra wasn't there. We don't always see the blocks because they don't always show them. We don't always see the breakdowns on what JMO's route running and that does to clear out for his teammates. We did in this game. He wasn't just a star receiver, he was a star teammate in this game, and he did everything in his power to win us this. I thought he was absolutely sensational, and the drop is not on him. Jared Goff has him dead to rights and throws behind him. He is a speed receiver moving at unbelievable speeds on his routes to throw behind him and have for him to have to adjust so quickly. It's just not going to happen. You hit him in stride, he's got a touchdown. JMO was perfect in this game for me, and I thought he was absolutely tremendous. I give him a well big up for this one.
Yeah, I agree. It was a game he needed, especially with all of the questions that continue to get asked about him in press conferences, which feels tremendously unfair that he's got to remain perfect under that sort of question when he doesn't have a catch in the previous game. Are you mad about this? No, the team comes first, and he's been resolute in that belief. He looks like he truly believes it. They need to get off his case, and maybe games like this will help, but somehow I doubt it. But JMO's going to have to be this guy for the next couple of weeks, potentially, so it's going to be interesting to see if we are able to use him like this. I hope so. One other guy I want to mention on the other side of the ball is Brian Branch. I had a go at Brian Branch last week, and I said the way he's been playing recently has been unacceptable for a person who plays as well as he does normally, because he'd been letting us down big time. And, you know, maybe part of that was injury related, I'm not sure. But he was one of the few people on defense to have a really good game. Couple of pass breakups in there. He was pretty devastating against the run. So I thought that was excellent. And otherwise, when there were issues in coverage behind him, was not his fault. I do think schematically the Lions got things wrong. I had one thing on my notes about the Lions playing cover one, which means you've got man-to-man on the outside, and the Packers just ruined us with that in key moments. But
No
it's
pressure.
not up to Brian Branch to get the scheme right. He executed his assignments very, very well all day. So given that I singled him out yesterday in a negative, last week in a negative way, I wanted to highlight the fact that he was one of the few who did really well on defense.
The only little mark against him in this one was the touchdown throw to Wicks, the fourth down one that shouldn't have counted. Initially, it looked like he gave up on the play because he was running back into coverage. Safety was coming across, but he stopped running. When you look at it, he looks back and he doesn't see the ball in Jordan Love's hands. I don't know if he knows the ball is airborne coming in his direction, but I would just like a bit more awareness in that situation because it looked like he stopped and gave up on that. And maybe he didn't, but there have been instances recently where people say he's been giving up on plays a little bit too easy. So we'll see. But I agree with you outside of that, he was great. I think, for me, there's more good ones to be given out in this. I want to give a massive shout out to Tate Ratledge. I think he's an absolute king warrior. He is clearly in serious pain. He is hurting. He's got some issue with his neck or his shoulder, which is causing him a lot of pain. He had another great game yesterday. I think when they were showing his injury and that, the next play he folded Kingsley and Igbari in half like a deck of cards in run blocking. He was tremendous. But I thought he held up well against Parsons. They showed a couple of reps against him where he was able to stand up. He was doing the combo blocks really well and that. Because Tate had the really bad game against Philly, and I think he's bounced back with two very good performances. But Tate is clearly playing really hurt right now, but you wouldn't know it the way he's powering through. He's been an absolute champion. So Tate gets a massive shout out for me as well.
If you have any other positives, give him, because I don't. Actually, no.
You know what? I'm gonna give one to my fellow Baldy, Skip. When Skip was in and we were running the jumbo package with him, we were a better team. And Skip did really well in his limited time in this game. I remember seeing him in on plays, and we are a better team when Skip is in as a sixth man because, again, You need him. You want extra blockers. You want Jared Goff to have more time. I want to see more Dan Skipper at inside tight end. Sixth man, jumbo package. It was our best drive of the game when we had Skip in, and why we went away from it, I don't know.
I mentioned his name earlier. Tom Kennedy had 41 snaps on offense, and he was a positive. And given we'd just thrown him into the deep end, that's all you can ask of him. I know he's been a kind of punching bag for everything that's wrong about this team in terms of hanging on to people too long, and he's a preseason warrior and whatever. But on third down, he was money. And that run up the seam where Goff found him and, whatever. Like, he defied expectations in a really positive way given Amon-Ra went out of the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would give a little up to Tesla as well. Um, he made the most of the targets he got. He made some damn good catches. He got his touchdown. He's starting to worm his way into this team now. So I give a little up for Tesla as well.
I think on a down-to-down basis, it's a lot to... The PFF grade is not good. But the thing with that is that he's a very raw rookie who was asked to play 58 of 63 offensive snaps, having not played very much at all in the preceding 11 games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think on a down-to-down basis, asking him to be a great player every single rep is hard. He made splash plays, and that is all you can ask of him.
Fans and content creators blew his expectations way too far out the water.
Completely agree, yeah. Absolutely.
And we've got to and I've said, I'm not saying don't support these guys, just stop making unrealistic expectations of them. When he's making those catches in preseason, everyone going, he's going for 1,000 yards this year and stuff. Shut up. Amon-Ra took half a year to get well with Jared Goff, and he's a top 5 receiver in the NFL. It just doesn't happen overnight. Let the kid develop.
Yeah.
He is right where I would rather Tesla be here where he is right now, because he's gaining confidence week in from a smaller snap count, from making more impactful plays. That's going to make him more confident when his snap count goes up, and it's going to give him the belief he needs to be a great receiver for years to come. I think they're working him in perfectly. A quick shout back to the whole Branch thing, and Jeff Hughes makes a great point in the comments. And this is another gripe I have. Why the fuck are we not blitzing Brian Branch? Brian over the last 4 games, Brian Branch has more sacks on this team than anybody else. What an indictment on your team is that? But at the same point, he's your leading sack man. He can get home better than anybody else can. So why are they not using him in the blitz? Yeah. Kelvin's really concerning me now. What did we always say about Glenn? Glenn stubbornly stuck to his way of football, and when teams were dicing him apart, he would never go away from it because of this undying belief that his brand of football was the best way possible. Kind of the same gripe we've got on offense, really. Did it not feel like Kelvin did that yesterday and has done that the last 2 weeks?
Yeah.
He is, for some reason, refusing to adapt, and adaptability was his biggest plus point for the first half of the season. I don't get why it's changed.
No. I'm not going to do any stock down because we've been negative about the team structurally.
No. We're doing stock downs. I got gripes.
Okay, I got no gripes, so you go for gripes.
I've got gripes. Amik, sorry, you are busted on this team at the moment. He's been targeted 30 times in the last 3 games. Do you know why? Because he's giving up big plays. What was the tweet Peyton put out yesterday? He gave up his first 4 catches for 90-odd yards and a touchdown.
Okay, that seems harsh though, because one of them was a 58-yarder over his head. But
still is. He got I'm an idiot with schemes, so please explain this to me. Why was he on Watson on that one?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Why is DJ Reed or Terry and Arnold not on him? Just explain.
Well, not DJ Reed. Not DJ Reed. Not DJ Reed. He's still 5'9". You cannot put a 6'4" man with speed against anyone else other than Terry and Arnold. That has to be Arnold's assignment. If you have to go man to man on that one person, that's what you do. Because you can't give up those extra 3 inches. And I know Reed and Arnold are probably a similar speed, but that's a massive fuck up.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was a scheme thing, but I'm like, why is my corner one not on him?
But then
Why are we putting Christian Watson on our undersized slot corner?
But then I'm not putting that on Amiki either for not being able to cover that, because that's not his fucking fault that they told him that's his assignment.
For me, he's been weak. You don't get
He has
targeted.
been struggling. He
You
has
don't
been
get,
struggling.
and teams are 30 targets in 3 games. He's averaging 10 targets against him in games now because teams have found a weakness and they're picking on it. So he goes into that down category, I'm afraid. It is just the way it is.
Who else
But
do you have? Go on.
you know what? Reader's disappointing the fuck out of me at the minute. What's DJ Reader done for this team recently? Nothing. I'm starting to get fed up of DJ. I think, when it's done, it's done. Get rid of him next year. I think he's a free agent anyhow, isn't he?
Yeah,
We're
he
not going to
is.
pay him next year, but again, you're looking for a vet to stand up on that middle and do something. He's just not value for money. Is he value for money on this contract? No, he really isn't. Um, so yeah, I think they were the two I really wanted to get in on.
Right?
Outside of that, on offense, I don't think there's much else to say there. Although, I guess I'll give negatives to our coordinators.
Yeah,
Our
both.
coordinators have been outcoached
And by
in both games
coordinators on
against the
offense, you
Packers.
mean Dan, right?
Yeah, I, I don't. And I'm not having a go at Dan. Dan's got a lot on his plate, and I think that he's suffering from having too much to do right now. When he's struggling on offensive drives late in games because he's trying to manage the game and he's trying to manage the offense. Like he says in this one, he was trying to manage the game so that he got it down to a point where we could only score and they couldn't, and all that sort of stuff. All that's going through his head when he's trying to call
That is a
offensive plays.
moronic thing to say. I'm sorry, but when you need to score twice and they need to score no times, who gives a fuck if they score? You have to score twice, and there has to be time for you to score twice. We didn't give ourselves enough time to score twice, so you lose the fucking game. Like, no, I don't buy that argument. It's a stupid thing to say.
I thought you were calling me a moron then.
No! Dan,
No,
Dan
it's
has made a massive brain fart by trying to claim that he was not allowing them to score, but we could. But they had to not score for us to get the ball, and for them to not score, they have to have a chance to score. But they could run the clock out with loads of room to spare.
and I think we can all agree our 2 minute offense this year has been pish poor, right? It's
Oh, it's
pish
been
poor
terrible.
because of time management. And time management has been a big issue. Like they were saying, was it saying? Oh, I can't remember who was saying it now. I think Herman may have been saying it or something like that. When you're in that situation and you're two down and you're 5 minutes to go, you should have plays ready to go. Like they're ready, they're off the bat. You send them in, you play, you go. They were on the mic, they were in the huddle, they were taking all the time on the clock, and then they were just throwing a 2 yard dart to somebody, and then it was an immediate tackle, and you've wasted 40 seconds, you've gone 2 yards, and you're wasting another 40 seconds to go again. And Ben's thing that he was very good at was marshalling his offense, having the plays ready to go, having the attack plan ready. He didn't need a huddle. He just sent the call to Goff. Goff gave the call. They did it, and they kept going and going and going. They are not organized this year, and they are wasting so much valuable time. And I think that is what we miss from Ben the most, having the plays called, ready to go, having these scenarios called and ready to go. The head coach has a billion different things to do on this team. He can't be writing up 2 minute drills. We need an offensive coordinator who has a good brain coming up with these scenarios so that we can get there. He's clearly not prepared for the end of games when we need to hurry because the
No,
plays aren't ready to be
but I
called.
kind of don't agree with that, because I don't think that your random plays that you have for 3:30 to go in the fourth, down 2 scores, involve throwing to Ross fucking Dwelly twice in a row. Tell me that that is random. It can't be. You do not throw to your backup tight end twice in a row for a fucking laugh. It's not realistic. That was a designed fuck up. And that's why Dan deserves a massive L here. Like, I'm sorry, but in those situations, throw down the field as quickly as you fucking can. If you do not have it, throw it away so the clock stops. Rothwell with a 2-yard quick out getting tackled inbounds is doing no one any fucking good stuff. It's
And
not
we ended up having
helping.
to kick a field goal anyhow. We couldn't even
Yeah,
get a touchdown from close in.
and I mean, at the day, I did say that Goff doesn't deserve. He did enough to win this game. There has been a habit of him in the last few weeks eating some really bad sacks when he's had the opportunity to throw the ball away. And in previous years, he might have tried to run out of it and lost even more yards. He's kind of just sitting there and eating it, which is better than what he has done sometimes. But sometimes he's got a ball in hand, he's looking to throw. You're under pressure. Turf it if you have to, straight at your receiver, which he used to be really good at, actually, is throwing the ball away at the feet of his receiver. That's seemingly ended. It's not as catastrophic as fumbling the ball or withdrawing for losing more yards, but he's eating unnecessary sacks, and that really hurts.
Yeah, it just feels like the escapability's not there even for him. Like he's always seemed to have he had a period where he had the escapability under pressure, and it just feels like every time someone gets a hand on him now he's down. Like you say, that aura's gone a little bit, and you
It
just
has.
wonder what's happened there.
Right. Frank Ragnow, unless you have anyone else to talk about negatively before we move on to Frank.
No, I think we've covered everything we can. We need to talk about the repercussions of the game after, but obviously go for Frank
Yeah.
first.
So Frank, I was at a concert. I was at a Pink Floyd tribute band, the Aussie Pink Floyd experience, and they are the best tribute act there is. And I was watching them, and there was the song being played at that time, which was "Wish You Were Here." It was the "Wish You Were Here" 50th anniversary celebration of that album, and going around "Wish You Were Here," and then Frank announces he's coming out of retirement, and it was serene. It was like it's the first time that a little part of my brain has gone, is it fate? I heard "Wish You Were Here," and knowing Detroit are playing tomorrow, and Frank Ragnow comes out of retirement. So I was fucking hyped. Like, I was fist pumping, and I was at this concert with my dad, and he tolerates the American football. He knows nothing about it. I did take him to a game last year in London, actually, which was really nice. But he has no idea what's going on, and now I'm there, fist pumping through a melodic rock song, psychedelic rock song, which is a bit out of kilter. But it's I think it's maybe been the happiest I've been this season, knowing that he's coming back. And my fear is that he's coming back just for this season and he's going to retire in the off season again because he's the reasons why he retired are probably still there for him. I hope that it lasts into next season at the very least, but it's going to be such a blessing to see him walk out on the field any time it happens. And if we're eliminated, I kind of don't care. I'm just going to be glad to see him. But what a huge moment for him as a person.
Yeah, and I do think this ties in to Graham not playing. I know him and Graham know each other very well, and it would not surprise me in the slightest if Graham, like Dan said, it wasn't him. The players have been talking to him. If Graham said, "Look, I'm struggling. I'm injured. I'm really struggling. We're struggling here. The guys, we need some help. Can you help us?" And Frank has gone, "You know what? I feel it's my duty to my guys to come back and help." I think that for me, the two are not separate incidences because I don't know if we'll see Graham again now with the injury and where it's at for him as a lineman. It could be very tough, especially we're technically on a short week right now. But obviously having Frank back is huge. Like you say though, if it's just to the end of the season, it's unless you win a Super Bowl, it's not going to solve any long-term problems. You would like to think I don't think Frank would just come back given the situation for this year because he must have known the odds of the Lions making the playoffs are not as high as they were, and there was a very good chance it might not happen. So there's no point coming back for what will be 4 games because I think we've all agreed he's not playing Dallas, is he? Um,
They've
they've
said,
said,
so the national media have reported that it seems unrealistic for him to do
yeah.
that. But
So
if
he's not
anyone
going
can
to,
do it, he can.
but it seems unlikely he's going to come back for a 4 game stretch. A couple of games which might be meaningless if we've not won by then and we're out the playoff race. Like, what does he gain from that? He doesn't gain anything. You can say, yes, he's doing it because potentially we might get to the playoffs, but you would like to think he's got 1 more year left in him. His contract runs technically for another 2 years, right? I think. I didn't check the contract,
It
but I'm
no,
pretty
we've
sure.
only one more year.
So he could ride out his contract with us now.
Yeah.
And you would like to think maybe he will honor the rest of that contract. And then in 12 months' time, we'll look at him retiring for good. But it solves a huge problem in the next draft cycle if he is back. Because you seriously have to look at a centre in this year's draft if he's not. I'm just not a fan of putting Ratledge there. And even if you do put Ratledge there, you're going to have to invest in another guard in the draft and you're going to have to invest high in one. So if he's back, it's one less pick you've got to put on the offensive line. One more pick you can pick to somewhere else that's going to be a thing there. But obviously, it's huge. He's the best centre in the league on his day. How much his time off has taken off from me. You would like to think it's not going to be too. This is not like he's been out the game for 2 years and he's a thin man now and he's having to re-bulk back up and do all this. He's been out the game, let's just say, as long as someone who's torn their ACL. Or less. Probably less. It's probably the length of time. His body is not going to have regressed that much. I don't think. He's a very active man. He's always out. He's always out in nature and that. You'd like to think he's going to be in pretty good shape and good to go sooner rather than later. But yeah, it can't be said how much better it's going to be when he's back. And hopefully he is back for another year at this point. But I was also, it felt like we lost Frank too early. And now it feels like we've been given another chance with him. And we will cherish every single play we get with him from now on going forward. And who knows, maybe this extended period away has allowed parts of his body to heal
Yeah.
to the point where they're not going to be issues for him maybe that toe is healed now to the point where it can take another year or two's worth of battering before it becomes an issue again. So I'm just glad he's back though. We lost him too early.
I I don't think this. So Frank is a person of commitment for me. And when he committed to retiring, I truly believe he meant it. And the fact that all of the beat reporters are surprised he's back means something to me. If he decides he's coming back, I think it could be long term. In some ways, I would not be surprised to see him sign a new deal at the end of next season. I think he's realised how much he loves the game. And you know what? When you retire at 30, with as much money as he has, you live a long time. Like, I think he's realised he wants to actually make the most of this. But when you do have the nickname head, shoulders, knees and toes because you're on the injury report every week with every injury under the sun, life gets hard. And I do think he is quite funny because a lot of the Americans won't understand this. There's a footballer who used to play for England called Gary Neville, and he was mercilessly taking the piss out of for describing holidays or vacations as mini retirements. Well, I'm going to re-borrow that term here and say I think Frank had a mini retirement because he needed, with all of his injuries, an extended period of time away from the sport without actually permanently stepping away. And I think in some ways, we could have said to him, just take a year off. Like, we still want you to come back and you should just intend on coming back, but you need to get yourself right. And I think that's kind of what's happened.
Put him on NFI or something like that. Because
Yeah.
they don't get paid on NFI, do they? But if he doesn't want to play, then
Yeah.
you save your money. So, but yeah, I would like to think now he's not played since January. His body's had a long time to heal, and hopefully it will have.
There were a few questions. I just want to address this about whether we've given him a new deal, whether we've upticked things and like to convince him to come back. As far as we're aware, no. I do want to make the point that he was signed to a big deal with a large amount of money up front, and then he did not play out that contract, which means he's had a huge amount of money for not very many games on that deal. So everyone who's asking for him for a pay rise, I don't think Frank actually cares about the money beyond this point. He got the money, which meant a huge amount to him at the time. He's good. He doesn't need extra money. And frankly, we've paid him for these games already. Like, more than. I am so grateful he's back, but it is a personal decision on whether he wants to play football or not. I'm not going to use money to convince him, because I think then he's doing it for the wrong reasons.
But I think the natural American psyche as well, and you know, I don't make these judgments on Americans very often, but they like to be heroes. And you know they like to be, you know, it's what their whole culture revolves around. And if Frank's at home seeing the Lions struggle, seeing his teammates struggle, and he's there and he thinks, well, I'm healthy now, I'm still in shape, why can't I go and be a hero for this team? Why can't I come back and save the day? Which ultimately Frank Ragnow could do for us. He could come back and save the day. This I think every human being, if they were in that scenario, wouldn't you just love one day to think I can go and be the hero here? And who wouldn't want to take that with two hands and throttle the life out of that opportunity and go and take it for all it's worth? I think there's a little bit of that as well. Frank knows he has the opportunity to potentially save our season and, you know, be a big part of this team again very quickly. And that must have been appealing to him as well.
Mm.
Because he's just been a foot soldier all these years and just a guy on the team. Now he's got the opportunity to be that guy. He's been missed. Everyone's glad to have him back. He'll feel like the main event now, which is sometimes a good thing for guys to be needed and felt like that.
Mm. All right, let's move on from Frank. We talked about the implications of this result for the team. So let's talk about it. The Lions fall to 7-5. They are the 8th seed currently, facing the current 9th seed in Dallas in a week's time. Because the Lions' record in conference is so bad, 4-4, it's an absolute must-win game, especially because Dallas have a tie in there as well. If you lose to Dallas, they have the tiebreaker. It's another seed in there which has you. You fall to the 9th seed at least. Probably don't have the Panthers jump you because they're playing the Rams, but who cares whether you're 8 or 9? 7 is all that matters. The Bears have just won. They go up to 9-3, which means they're 2 games ahead of the Lions, and they'll be playing each other in week 17 or 18. And that would tie the series. But the Bears are 6-2 in conference, so even if you tie the head-to-head, the Bears are probably still going to hold the tiebreaker. So for all intents and purposes, the Bears are almost out of reach. The Packers have swept us. They're 8-3-1, so they're only a game and a half in front, but with the tiebreaker, it's 2 games. And the way they're playing, there's no reason to believe that we're going to overhaul them either. The Packers have remaining Bears twice. They'll get a win each and still be a game ahead of us both. They've got at Broncos versus Ravens, at Vikings. Well, the Vikings are shit, the Ravens are bad, and the Broncos can't get any offense going. So the Packers should be in all of those games. So I think the division is dead. And frankly, I think we're going to finish behind both of them. Okay, well, that puts one of them in the top 4 seeds, one of them in the 5 to 6 seed, and the Lions, if they get in, 6 to 7. But you're facing trying to get over the Seahawks at 8-3, the 49ers at 8-4, and then maybe the Cowboys too, who you're playing next week. This is a dire situation.
Yes, and the immediate thing, I'll go on in a bit more detail in a minute, but the immediate problem you have is the Cowboys game is now a must win.
It's a must win.
Because what happens, you need to keep as fewer teams in this wildcard race as possible. You've got to reduce the range of outcomes against you. If you let Dallas beat you next week, they're on 7 wins with us, but more importantly, they have the tiebreaker over us. So you have then, not only are you worrying about the Bears, the Packers, the 49ers, all those teams, you've invited the Cowboys into this conversation as well. And you can't beat every single team. You just can't. And you said we're a game and a half behind the Packers. You know what that means? It means we need to win 2 games to get in front of them. That is without them winning a game. You've only got 5 games left. You need to win nearly half of your remaining games just to get ahead
And frankly,
without
they
anyone
could win
else
all
playing a
of their
game.
games. So
And if they win 2 more games, you've got 3 games left and you're 2 games behind. And all of a sudden, you've got to win all those 3 games. Having a 2 game deficit with 5 games to go is a very tough order to get above. And as you said, we're losing all the major tiebreakers now. NFC North, NFC, head to head. We're losing them all. So now the Dallas game, do not let anyone tell you it's not must win. This is the definition of a must win game. Statistically, maybe it is not, but you are inviting another team into the wild card conversation. They will have knocked off the Eagles, Chiefs, and Lions in a row. You telling me you're going to beat them over a 5 game stretch? The next one, the odds are not very high
no.
because they're in form at the right time. So that is your immediate problem. You've got to win the Cowboys game. Your problem after that is you're going to LA to face the best team in the entirety of the NFC, who are
NFL.
going to be potentially NFL, and they're fighting for that 1 seed. So they're not going to take it easy on you. They're not. This is not some end part of the season where we can catch them because they'll have a gimme because they're resting up for the playoffs. They will still be competing for those playoffs and they will be competing for the 1 seed. So they're going to treat us with disdain. And then after that, people just magically think we're going to win 2 road games in the NFC North when we're 1-3 in conference this year. We've lost
In
most of our
division,
home
yeah.
games in division, sorry. Division road games are hard, right? The odds of you winning 2 on the bounce are not high. And if you need to win them both, that puts you in a really difficult
Well, and
situation
not the way
right
we're
now.
playing right now. Like, we're
No.
talking about needing to run the table with a team which is struggling to get out of its own way.
And we've not won back-to-back games since week 5. Or now all of a sudden we're expected to win 4 in a row, 5 in a row,
Yeah,
just like that.
it's not realistic.
We can't magic these problems away on the team. We can't magic up a pass rush.
Yeah.
We can't magic up a competent offensive line. We can't magic up great play calling that's going to help the offensive line. We can maybe magic up one, but we can't magic up all 3, which is what we require to start winning games of football.
Mm.
So for me
But
it is just yes, it's not mathematically impossible, but this loss, as we said before in the preview, would be huge and would have ramifications because it puts us behind in so many tiebreakers to effectively to the point you've got to win 4 of your last 5, and that is unrealistic.
and I mean,
Unlikely, sorry.
let's say 4 of your next 5 is what you're saying we need to do. At the end of the day, regardless of the Cowboys, let's not even look below the Lions in the rankings. At the moment, you're at 8. You need to overhaul one of the ones above you. The Seahawks are 8-3, so they're yet to play this week. So they're 1.5 games in front right now. They look like one of the best teams in the NFL at the moment. Darnold's gone off the boil slightly, but overall as a team, the way they're coached, the way McDonald has got them playing, I don't expect us to overhaul them. Green Bay have the tiebreaker on us. We've talked about how difficult that's going to be already, and they've got a cakewalk of a schedule down the stretch. That's 5-6. The other team is another 8-win team in the San Francisco 49ers. And I don't believe they're an incredible team, but they're well coached. And here's their run. At Browns. Versus Titans. At Colts. That could be tough, but Daniel Jones has got an injury and they haven't looked like the same team for a few weeks. They have regressed a little bit. Hopefully Jonathan Taylor can do us a favour.
Can you say that without flashing an evil smile?
What do you want me to say?
I told
Do you want me
so.
to say I was right?
No, I hear
Okay,
that enough from you.
thanks. So at Browns versus Titans, at Colts, and then versus Bears versus Seahawks. So that's not the easiest run in for the final two games, but it is not out of the realm of possibility. Being a game back from San Francisco, and can I point out their 8-4 is 8-2 in conference. They cannot have they cannot have a losing record in conference. They've already won 8 games. So they are likely to have a tiebreaker over us, which means we have to get more than one game in front of them. They're a game ahead of us now, so we have to do better than one game.
And they've got the Browns and Titans up next, so you've got to win these next two just to keep up with them.
Yeah, so if you win 4 out of your next 5, that only makes a difference if the 49ers don't beat 2 of 3 out of the Colts, Bears, and Seahawks. And I agree that that's a tall order for the 49ers, but that's a lot of faith to put in there because even if we win 4 games, we could still be out to that 49ers team on a tiebreaker. That is where we're at. 4 out of 5 may not be good enough. We could be an 11-win team that doesn't go in. So that's what this loss means, is even doing 4 out of 5, it frankly isn't good enough. We need to run the table. That's where we are.
Yeah. And have we seen any indicators that we're ready to do that?
Okay, so
Sadly, we've not.
I'm making this call right now, and I've just put it in the chat. The Lions are not going to the postseason this year, and we have to start making our peace with that. And it's not about not having faith in this team, and it's not about not having faith in this coaching staff, because I still believe in the overall project. We are not going to the postseason.
No, and I would like to think that people who have long-term watched this show know that we're very optimistic and we've backed this team to the absolute hilt, but we also speak realistically from the hip. And it just doesn't. And like people keep going, oh well, it's not over till it's over. Believe in this team, and that's the trouble. I have had an unshakable, and I go back to, I've already said it. I have an unshakable belief in this team that they can, when backed into a corner, anything's possible. That belief has gone now. It doesn't mean I've given up on them, but that unshakable belief is I've just found out that they're human. We're finding out the Lions are human right now. They're not a superhero who can just keep bouncing back and defying expectations and that. Sometimes humans lose. And a playoff, not getting to the playoffs this year would be a huge loss, but we're human. It doesn't look like the Chiefs are going to the playoffs, although it's easier for them because they've had 3 Super Bowls recently. It doesn't look like the Ravens might get to the playoffs potentially. It doesn't look like the Bills might get to the playoffs potentially. Like, shit happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is not your year. The fact is you can bounce back pretty quickly. We're on that level playing field where we can elevate ourselves back up very quickly if we choose to be aggressive enough and stop with the slow build process because we're facing a rebuild right now. We're in a Super Bowl window facing a rebuild of sorts on the trenches, and we can't afford to do it the draft way and wait 2 or 3 years because then all the big contracts kick in, your cap's screwed, you can't afford to supplement the team, and then you've got to start again, and then there's always an excuse coming. That's why I've said I hate the long window because we're going to use the long window excuse here that we can afford to rebuild and just wait 2 or 3 years till we get back in championship game contention. We can't. So this is going to be a massive off season for Brad and Dan. They've got to change tactics.
And it's going to be really interesting to see if they go all in on the draft because Brad can't resist moving up. And one of the things in this situation where you kind of want to go,
Not got many draft picks.
Exactly. Like, if you're going to build through the draft, keep your draft picks. Don't move up in that situation. If there is someone you want to go and get, fine. But you're putting then a lot of apples in one basket. And we'll see how that goes. But it does make it harder to pay your players long term when you don't have cost control people. So...
No, and we're going to have to start this year. This rebuild starts with the 2023 class. You're going to have to start shipping some of them. I don't care how much you love them. You're going to have to start looking at shipping Laporta, maybe Branch, maybe someone like that to get yourself the high level draft capital to the fact when you can start wheeling and dealing again and refreshing through the draft. We can't just keep handing out record setting contracts like candy. Is he prepared to do that? they've said they want to draft, develop, and pay, but the Eagles have shown that sometimes you've got to let some of your better talent leave so that the team may live.
Yeah,
And that is the mentality we've got to take now.
yeah,
Brad, you have done a wonderful job building this team through the draft. It's time to notch it up to the next level now. You don't do it 100% through there. Can you be flexible enough now to do other things to get this roster where it needs to and not? Otherwise, we could be looking back at this regime in 10 years going, my God, they were talented, but they were stubborn, and their inability to change, to adapt to what they did good, to what they didn't do, what could have been. And I
yeah.
don't want to be doing that in 10 years' time. I want to say they built it right, they hit a bit of a block, they adapted their approach, and they ultimately won a Super Bowl. That's what I want to remember it for.
I mean, at the end of the day, you have a look at the decisions in isolation as they were, and you can say that they're not necessarily bad decisions. But
No.
at the end of the day, we took Isaac Teslar, and I know people saying, what did he contribute for us now? It's a longer term play, and there's room for that to be proved right. But what you could have done is you could have taken the best available player without trading up, wherever you were in that draft, and then you could have used your third round pick to trade for Jalen Phillips, like another team did, because you would have still had that pick. And you could have had a player in the draft and Jalen Phillips. And how different does this team look now if you have a player of his quality on this team, even for a year? That's maybe the sort of low risk move that a team can make, especially if you do get a comp pick back for it, like Philly are going to do. Inevitably, Jalen Phillips is going to get paid by someone.
See, Philly play the pick game well. They amass their picks through free agent. They play the free agency, letting your guys go, getting they play the comp pick game so that they have their comp picks for the next draft. Whereas, so you can use your third, fourth, fifth round draft picks at the deadline to strengthen your team because you're just going to restock them with comp picks. It doesn't matter that you've lost them. You can just go to the draft and you can still draft the guys you want in rounds 3, 4, or 5, and you can still attack the next draft cycle, the next trade deadline with 3, 4, or 5. You've got to have this full circle where you can attack both ways. The way Brad does business, he can only attack the draft. He's never got the capital to attack the trade deadline. All those picks we gave up for Tesla, the thirds, are the ammunition we would have used at the deadline. Those
Yeah,
thirds and that to get some of these better players. Because you don't have those, you can't attack the deadline. You get back to the next draft, you've not got your draft picks because you've traded them away. And then vice versa, you're going to get to the next trade deadline and you're not going to have anything to attack the draft with because you've got no comp picks coming in to refresh those picks for the next cycle. Hence why we have to start letting some of the players we like go
yeah.
so we can start playing the comp pick game and do it this way. That's how Philly does it. That's how we need to be doing it.
Philly do it both ways because they extend their cap as well. They push their cap into the future and they do this with draft picks. With the draft picks, we're basically doing what Philly does with their salary cap, which is pushing our picks into the now because picks in the future mean less. Well, they don't when the future comes. Like, I don't understand why they have the mentality with a salary cap where they don't push this stuff into the future as much as they can, but they're very willing to do it with their future picks. It's the same question about a different thing, and they answer it in a different way, and that's bizarre to me. It's inconsistent, and I just don't like it. But anyway, we're hammering away now at this overall team, and it probably feels like we're flogging a dead horse at this point. So unless you have anything pressing, I think it'd be a good time to draw this to a close.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like you say, you don't want to be too negative. I think we have to be the right type of negative. Obviously, in the face of any defeat, you can fall victim to hysteria and everything, but I think there is legitimate cause for concern now, and we can't just be wide-eyed optimistic anymore. I think we're past that point. As you said, we have to start accepting the reality that we may not be a playoff team this year. And you know what? That doesn't mean it's over. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean we're same old Lions fans who are predicting the end of times and that everything's going to fall and we're going to back to doom and gloom and we're going to go back to doing draft prep at the end of October.
Oh, we're
It
we're we're
just
still
means,
back. This
it
is still
just
so
means
much better than it was under Patricia.
exactly, but it just means that it's not our year. We've hit a roadblock. Every team hits a roadblock. And, it is about how they come back from this. But this is now a test because now Brad and Dan's way of doing business has been challenged because now their flaws have been exposed. They can't just carry on doing what they're doing. The way they do things is tremendous, but it can always be improved. It's how much are they going to go away from what they do and adapt to survive with it, which is going to signal how great this team's going to be in the future. And it's going to be something we're going to have to keep a very close eye on. But yeah, it's if you're not worried about this team, you are living in cloud cuckoo land. And that's just an unfortunate way of it. We say things when they're good, we say things when they're bad. But at the end of the day, we're still going to be here every single week talking about them because there ain't no amount of pain that can keep us from doing this. As you said, we've been through a hell of a lot worse, and we will go through a hell of a lot worse in the future.
Yeah, the blessed that we are that we're talking about the pain of not making the playoffs when how long was it that we didn't experience a playoff win in? This is so different and it feels so different. I remain hopeful that actually something like this, when we talk about the Lions loss and maybe they needed it to sort some shit out, in some ways, if Dan Campbell can take this season and look at it as a whole and go, something needs to change wholesale, and they move forward from this and use it as a springboard to go further, great. That's what this needs to be now. Learn the lessons of what's happened and do it. Take a year to really learn the lessons of what happened and what went wrong and fix it. Because this ain't no, don't worry, we can fix the protections like John Morton said after week 1. That's not a problem. Like, that's easily fixable, even though we're in week 13 and it still isn't fixed.
No, you've
Sorry,
got to.
that's a really
No,
bad
no,
gripe to finish, but
no. It's all right. It's you've got to. Hopefully, they're learning. They've not invested in the offensive line in the draft. That's come back to bite them because we've got no quality depth in there, which has been exposed. We've not invested very well in the defensive line when it comes to pass rush. That has been exposed. Hopefully now they're going to look at that and go, you know what? Our intentions were pure, but maybe we revisit this a little bit and we do things a little differently going forward. Even the best have to adapt. The one thing we used to complain about with Quinn and Patricia is it was their way or the highway, and they would never change from it. And that applies to Brad as well. No matter how successful he's been, he has to show his ability to adapt to the situation. And you know what? I think he would. He's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. And
yeah.
he's committed to building a winner here. And I still have utmost faith in Brad here. A lot of people are getting him. I don't. I think he's a human who's made a lot of good decisions and has made the odd bad decision, which gets exacerbated a lot higher because people expect him to win all the time, and when he doesn't, they get upset. But he'll get us there. I've no doubt about that. The fact that I think this season might be over is not an indictment on Brad in the slightest.
Yeah. Right, with that slightly upbeat note, we're going to draw this to a close. We would normally go through the rest of the games that have happened in a week, but not many of them have happened. We'll wait until Monday, and of course we have got Thursday night football next week, so another early game for us, which means our next show on the main podcast is going to be Monday afternoon, 2:30 Eastern time, if we can fix it for then, and we are going to be having a look back at the weekend that was, and we are going to be previewing the Dallas Cowboys game, as we've just talked about. An absolute must-win game if the Lions have any ambitions down the stretch against a defense totally transformed since the trade deadline, who did go big, as Ant has kind of been calling for the Lions to do. They spent picks, and they've gotten a lot better. So that's going to be a really interesting one. We're going to be previewing Dallas, and then, of course, the College Football Podcast will be returning midweek, looking back at the rivalry games and ahead to the Conference Championship. So you can follow us on our socials on Royal Lions UK. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the Facebook group for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. The website, roarofthelionsuk.com, rotluk.com. Please rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider. Do like, subscribe, all that stuff. It really does help us out in terms of getting the word out. Thank you to Ant for doing this for me, and to all of you for listening. We're hanging on by a thread, but you're saying there's a chance. So let's go Lions, One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.